I really enjoy helping people. I really, really do. I enjoy solving problems. Like if you have a problem, if you tell me right now you got a problem, I won't stop until I fix it. I was always enamored to the small and medium business. Always. It's a wider net and I pour my heart out. I believe in everything that I do and I sell. When I'm talking to the guy who's actually his family is going to, reap the rewards of this, or, his family might not eat because of this or whatever, he's putting his faith in us. And I love bringing those solutions to small and medium businesses. Always did. And I always had my foot in there. HighLevel, honestly, is probably the most complete CRM system that I've ever seen. I've worked on workflows since NetSuite, and all of that has come full circle now. And this is just like a powerful tool for anybody. This is a tool that anyone who starts a business, you gotta have it.
When I found HighLevel, someone gave me access to a sub account. They're just like, oh, just check this out. And within the first 5 minutes, I created my own account on the SaaS plan and I was going all in.
So Microsoft was funding us to go deliver their solution to these other companies, these big Fortune 500, Fortune 1500. I mean, there were all size companies. I spent most of my time interviewing new people to come in. We were just hiring people. It was crazy. In 18 months, we had 40 employees full time. And then after 2.5 years, we found ourselves with over 100 employees, which when you have that kind of growth, it catches people's eye. I would always want to get to the bottom. If I had to go buy something from somebody, I wanted to eliminate that guy the next time I had to buy. AI has changed it. It's almost like I equate it to back when the internet first came out, when we realized every business needed a website. I would go to people, would go, you need a website. And they're like, I've been in business 30 years. I don't need no website. I'm word of mouth. Word of mouth is the most powerful thing. And then 6 months later, they're like, hey, I need a website. Same guy. I'm like, what happened to word of mouth? Everybody's getting a website. You got to do it now. Just a quick website. I just want a cheap website, And that's how things started. Everybody realized you can't be in business without a website, right? Because everybody's not going to yellowpages.com or Yellow Pages anymore. They're going to Google, or they're going to Ask Jeeves back then. I don't know, whatever it was, Alta Vista. They have to have a website. We're building this for you. If you, in 6 months, decide you don't like us, we will turn this over to you. And we put that in writing. That's one of the things that I think helps us close, because a lot of the customers that we come to have had HighLevel before. And then once they stop paying the bill, everything goes away. I'm like, man, that's a shame. It really is a shame.
Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the Leverage and Lead podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Marla Harmon.
Hi, everyone.
And we have a special guest today, Mr. Ray Collazo. Ray is actually in my community, and I've worked with him over the past year. We actually met at the summit this past October, so that was really cool. Ray, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a privilege. It's an honor. I've been dreaming about this.
Yay. Ray, can you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself, about your business, how you use HighLevel, who you serve?
Right. So yeah, that's going to be going back a little bit. So I started in the CRM world and the small business world, serving small business about 25 years ago. I know I don't look that old, but I have the gray hairs to prove it. But I was in the enterprise world working on CRM and ERP systems. And I always had one foot into the small business world. My side hustle was always helping small businesses. Back then it was websites, and then CRMs became a thing. And, I went through every iteration of websites, helping, not any particular niche, but for some reason, a lot of construction, home services, garbage companies. I'm from New Jersey. So there were garbage companies out there that needed help, and they were some of my first clients. And I used CRMs and ERP systems. For those who don't know, ERP is basically covers everything. It's like a CRM mashed up with accounting and purchasing and everything all in one. But helping small businesses with the new technologies that came out for them. NetSuite was one of the first ones. It was called NetLedger back then. And I helped a lot of customers with that. I was one of the first NetSuite partner in New Jersey. and went through the whole program and helped a lot of people. And that's where we started to look at saying, small business, there's a lot more opportunity in small business. I worked for, companies like Pfizer and all that. They were all great, big money and all of that, but there's also lots of risk there. And we wanted to bring the advantages of those technologies to small businesses so that they could compete, right, with larger businesses. And I was my own. I know you've heard me say this before. I always ate my own dog food because growing my business, I didn't want to start hiring back end people and marketing people and all of that. I decided I wanted to leverage these technologies and kind of be the guinea pig and show them that, hey, I've got 16 employees. We're doing 1.5 million a year and I don't have any back office. I'm using all the technologies, and I really, that's what I tasked myself to do and do that. I had one person, helping me with that, doing payroll and, logging hours and things like that. So that's how I got into the whole CRM game. And through that, that journey, what brought me to HighLevel. And HighLevel, honestly, is probably the most complete CRM system that I've ever seen. I've worked on workflows since NetSuite, right? And all of that has come full circle now. And this is just like a powerful tool for anybody. I mean, there is a tool that anyone who starts a business, you got to have it. You have to, whether it's your Google profile and things like that. So today I serve a lot of home services companies and dental practices. And I know it's kind of like two separate things, but that's really who I serve today. And that this, HighLevel just helps everyone. And in the dental world, everybody knows about HighLevel. Most of my clients, they don't need an introduction. They're like, you work with, oh, okay, I know HighLevel. I've worked with it before with another practice or whatever. And that's where I'm at.
Ray, I'm so glad that you said that because I think a lot of people are really nervous about going and talking to clients and they don't know what to say when someone says, "Oh, that's HighLevel." What
Right.
do you say to 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 explain to them like, "Yes, it is HighLevel, but what is your answer to that?"
Yeah. So it's funny that you said that because, almost every dental practices are very difficult. They've been hit from every side. They get ads from everyone and they get promises of this. And inevitably, when they sign up with someone, it's HighLevel. So they, whatever stink they get from the last guy, they look at HighLevel as a bad thing. So I have to explain to them, like, look, HighLevel is a tool. Just like, and when I'm talking to a dentist, I'll say, just like your x-ray machine or whatever, your 3D machine, there's different brands and there's different things, but it's a tool that we use to get to a result. And it's, it happens to be one of the best tools and most complete tools. And, it's really how you implement it and the systems that the people that are involved with it. Right. And I inevitably gain their trust by, some of the things that we do. Because, the last guy never told us about that. He never let us have access. A lot of them don't even get access to HighLevel, or they do it a very minimal way. When we build something for someone, our message to them is that we're building this for you. If you in 6 months decide you don't like us, we will turn this over to you. And we put that in writing. That's one of the things that I think helps us close, because a lot of the customers that we come to have had HighLevel before. And then once they stop paying the bill, everything goes away. And I'm like, man, that's a shame. It really is a shame, because there was a lot of work that you put into it and that they put into it that you could, use today. So
That's really a good way to handle that objection because it eliminates their stress. And also, it kind of makes it's HighLevel. It turns that into an asset for you
yeah.
instead of something that you have to overcome.
Yeah. And I've started to move, and I'm glad you brought that up. I've started to move more towards telling everyone it is high level, because I spent 2 years building my brand. I call it MD360, and adding third-party tools, snapshots, all kinds of assets that you don't get if you just go to high level, right? So it's, and you both understand. I've got third-party tools. I've got custom snapshots that have taken years to build. Some of them I bought, some of them I've modified, and our high level, which MD360 does not look anything. And I do spend a little time letting them know that we add value. We're a value added reseller, right? We add value to the high level platform. And I kind of, without, getting, into certain things, but I equate it to like Salesforce, right? There's people that use Salesforce, but there's like an ecosystem in Salesforce that's like, infinite. And you could buy Salesforce and say, I use Salesforce, and then look at 10 different ones and they don't look anything alike because of the value add that, partners put in. It's the partners that bring the value to high level. And I hope they stick with that, because I've been like in my time, there's been companies like NetSuite that eventually said, hey, you partners are making too much money. We're going to do services now. And I just, like I said, it's like, I hope high level just sticks with the journey that they're going. And everything says that they are, because the people, the upper echelon there, they're focused on the partner community because they know that's how they got there.
When I first started with High Level, of course, this was like 2020. They had a services option. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. I never thought of it in like what you just said, how it actually hurts the agencies to have. I don't even think that they have that anymore. Do they, Marla? The services that they used to have in the dashboard.
No,
Remember
I
that?
don't think they do. Yeah, yeah, because they used to have like literally agency services. They had, where you could get ads run and all that kind of stuff. No,
Yeah,
they don't. It took me a second
it's
to
a big risk.
understand what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's a big risk, because now they can't, if they, screw the pooch on a project, on a large project, it's all them, right?
Yeah,
But
and they were outsourcing the majority of that.
right.
To my knowledge, they were.
And they should. And I, like, a lot of times I never understood why NetSuite went back and forth. They did like 2 or 3 times. I think now they're back more partner focused, but they inevitably, some smart guy comes up and says, you know what, these guys are charging $100,000 for an implementation and we can do it, blah, blah, blah. And they feel like they're leaving money on the table, but it's a bad move in my opinion. I think a company like that has to stay partner focused, because the partners are the ones that are the experts in the industry, the particular industry and everything. And, the guys that are inside, they just don't know. They know the generic way about it. So staying partner focused should be, a no-brainer.
I feel like I think it was last year or maybe the year before that, they came out with a certification program, and then they added everyone to the directory. And I haven't seen like agency services or anywhere or anything. I know you're what did you think of the certified admin?
It's cool. Yeah, I think I told you, right? I thought I was a hot shot, right? I'm like, I could do this in my sleep. And the exam, it's like 1 hour and they want you to do all this stuff. And if you literally make one mistake, you fail. Like, and inevitably, my nerves got the best of me the first 4 times. And then the 5th time, I think it was the 4th time I got through. But yeah, but I got through. It was cool because I did learn a lot of things. And then they had other programs. I did a couple of the other programs there, and they keep adding new ones. I don't even answer my calls or emails from people that get me from the directory, though. It's like, they're like looking for they're looking for like outsourced pay type of guys. And I'm sure, Marla, if you're in there, you know what I'm talking about.
Don't
I
get
don't
me
even
started.
answer.
I'm not in there.
Yeah, I don't.
Don't
I'm
get me
about to
started.
shut it down. I don't get
Yeah.
that many calls because I didn't spruce up my profile. But I do have a colleague of mine that calls me all the time. He's like, Ray, I just got this guy called me. He wants this and this and this done. I'm like, good luck with that, you know. And you got him from the directory. And what does he want to pay? He wants to pay me $500 to do, you know, and I'm like, say no. Sometimes the best client you get is the one you say no to. That's one of my favorite sayings, because I've made all the mistakes in my time, I've had 100 employees before in, some of my businesses, and, some of the clients that you try to get just to keep the payroll going when you're working from a desperation perspective, you wish you never got them because they just set you back even further.
Man, that's so true too. Just
Yeah.
so true. Because it's like you almost like get the feeling just talking to them. They start using like keywords that your brain recognizes as, oh, you're trouble.
Like I'm talking to a couple of other companies. I tune out right away. When they start with that, it's like, why did you have to tell me that?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I understand that you're, looking. Yeah, we're talking, and then they use those other companies. They're like, well, they quoted me half of what you. Why are you so expensive?
Yeah, because they're wanting to choose the cheapest option. And it's
Right.
like the cheapest option is not always the best
It's
option.
never. It's never. It's just like I used to work in for municipalities. Big mistake, but their rule is that they get 3 quotes, right? The city of this or whatever, they get 3 quotes, and they never choose the lowest one. They go either with the middle one, or they beat the top guy up and say, hey, you got to bring your price down a little bit. So they kind of use that process to kind of gauge what the market is.
That's a smart
And
strategy.
well, that's that's kind of like, a lot of construction companies, when they're subcontracting, they get 3 quotes, right? They have to get 3 quotes or whatever. So, it is what it is. So, but when I get somebody call me and they're like, well, I just want you to know I'm, talking to another company and they gave me a really good price, but I just want to know if, all right, well, why don't you just go with them?
There's a moment in every solopreneur's journey where they decide to stop being a freelancer and start being a CEO. That transition starts with strategy. It starts with having a clear, documented plan for who you serve, what you sell, and how you say it. It starts with having a professional business model. Most people never do this. I want to help you do it for free. I'm Bridget Bartlett, and when you click the link below, I'm going to give you a free account for my Vision Blueprint software. Its sole purpose is to help you create a stunning professional brand guide. It's a step-by-step wizard that helps you think through everything from your customer avatar and brand voice to your value ladder and calls to action. It's the foundational document that separates a hobby from a real business. And once you have that foundation, I want you to come and watch how to build on it. Your free account also gives you access to my private community where you can watch me coach my paid clients live 4 days a week. If you're ready to professionalize your business and build a real brand on HighLevel, this is your first step. Click the link to create your free brand guide now. What would you say, who should look to the directory to hire someone? Like, what type of people do you think would be, like, if I was looking to hire this type of person and I was going to go to the directory, what would be the best person that I would find there?
In the directory?
Mm-hmm.
Well, being I haven't spent much time there, I could tell you, if you're really rookie and you're just starting, it might be a good place to start. To get you from, ground zero to, I call it crawl, walk, and run, to get you crawling. But inevitably, I think you have to, and this is a big problem, and even people in my community have struggled with this, is delivery, right? They see the whole promise of HighLevel, and so to answer your first question is to get them started, to get their agency going. But eventually, when you get your agency going, what are you trying to do? You want to deliver. So you have to find a delivery mechanism. And I think, some of the agencies that are out there to, Extendly and GHL Pro or HL Pro Tools. Those are good to help you get started, and deliver. And then from there, you really have to, um, you have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and find some people that, eventually when you get going, you got to find people that are going to be with you.
So
VAs.
you exited your business. Can you talk a little bit about that business and that process and what made you decide, yeah, we're doing something else now?
Yeah. So, after I left the big pharma and all of that, we were doing really well. But eventually in pharma, I went through 3 acquisitions. I went through Warner Lambert, got acquired by Pfizer, then Pfizer and Pharmacia merged, and then Pharmacia and some of there was actually 4. And I made it through there. I was only a consultant. I made it through all those acquisitions, and then finally, I thought I was invincible. I thought I was going to be there forever. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get hired. I don't want to hire. So when I finally left there, because they were downsizing and getting a lot of I guess overseas. This is when in the beginning of the overseas labor thing, outsourcing. Then that became a thing, outsourcing. Um, and when I left there, I started my own company geared towards small businesses, small and medium. And I still had my foot in the enterprise space. And some of the guys that worked for me, they actually worked for me. They went to work for another company and they got really big with a company called VMware. VMware was one of the first companies that did virtualization. Virtualization, if you guys aren't familiar, is basically you take a physical server and you create it into a virtual machine. And that's what we see today. Amazon, they're all virtual machines. So before all of that, there was VMware and it was a virtual infrastructure. So I still had my foot in there and had quite a bit of work doing physical to virtual migrations. The guys that worked for me, they went to work for another company and they said, hey, this guy Ray really knows his stuff. We want to bring him in. So I started contracting for them. Well, they got acquired. And the guys that I knew that worked for me, they were like, we're out in the cold now and we're going to start our own company. So I liked them. They were very, very smart people. We were a really great team. So there was 4 of us. We came together. We started a consulting firm that we were working for mid-size and also enterprise companies. We had the backing of Microsoft. Microsoft loved us because we all had a good reputation in that world, virtualization world, and Microsoft was trying to sell their own virtualization tool. So once we did that, we grew like it was like crazy. I'm talking about from start. I'll never forget the day we started. We all went to Seattle to Washington. We had no contracts at all, and we left Washington, which is Microsoft's core office, with like $500,000 in business that was going to be funded from Microsoft. So Microsoft was funding us to go deliver their solution to these other companies, these big Fortune 500, 1500. I mean, there were all size companies. And we grew like, it was like, I spent most of my time interviewing new people to come in, and we brought we were just hiring people. It was crazy. In like 18 months, we had like 40 employees full time. And then after like 2.5 years, we found ourselves with over 100 employees, which when you have that kind of growth, it catches people's eye, especially like third-party vendors that are looking like, what is these guys doing? What are these guys doing? And we got several people courted us and wanted to acquire us. And, there started to become some differences in our partnership too, because we saw different ways we were going to go. But long story short, I took out an early buyout, which left me with one foot in the door. And then within a year, they were acquired for, I think it was like 15 million. So I didn't get a big part of that because I took an early buyout, but I was happy because I got seed money to start what I have now.
So what part of you, like what part of that whole process did you think, okay, I'm just going to go out on my own? And essentially you're doing something different.
Right. Well,
But what made you decide to pivot?
I was always enamored to the small and medium business, always. And I had
Why?
because it's, first of all, it's a wider net. That's the obvious thing. But because when you go in, and I pour my heart out, I can, I believe in everything that I do and I sell. When I'm talking to the guy who's actually, his family is going to, you know, reap the rewards of this, or, his family might not eat because of this or whatever, he's putting his faith in us. And I love bringing those solutions to small and medium businesses, always did. And I always had my foot in there. And as to the extent that when we had this company, we started building a managed services division, which that was me. That was what I was building it. I was trying to do managed IT services and all this. We had a couple of smaller clients, but they weren't anything compared to like a Cigna that comes in, $1 million contract. And here I got a contract for $10,000 a month. And they're like, man, that's, and they didn't see the value in building that. And it frustrated me because I knew that our time was going to come to an end. Yeah. I mean, there's literally, this is when the clouds, the term cloud started coming in. And I just knew that we were doomed because we were either going to get like squashed by another, company. And I saw it coming, and it did happen eventually. I mean, we got bought out for a lot less than what it wasn't even like a 1X type of thing. It was, it was almost a fire sale type of buyout at the end. But it was a good exit. It wasn't bad. It helped me start this. But I believe in the small and medium business, and it's kind of like David and Goliath. Like, you want to arm them to, fight against the big guy, right? Because there's these big guys, they just run everybody over, and the small guys are the ones with the passion and the quality of work that is out there. So that's why I'm on that side. That's why I'm still here.
So Ray, would you mind just kind of going back, and you mentioned New Jersey. I'd love to hear a little bit about like growing up there, how your upbringing impacted who you are today in business.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, Jersey, great place to grow up. I've since day one, I've kind of been a hustler type of person. Um, I've had my own business since I was like 16 or 17. And when I say my own business, I was installing car stereos, doing all kinds of, tech. I was always, enamored toward the tech work. I went in high school. I was in, the technology class, and I learned wiring. And immediately when I learned about the 12-volt system, I started messing with people's cars and installing like, crazy horns and all kinds of stuff. And they were like, hey, Collazo could do it, And I started doing car alarms, all that kind of stuff. I actually sold a company at 19 years old. It wasn't a lot, but I mean, I sold a company that I built. It was a car alarm company. And I was the first Viper. I don't know if you ever heard of Viper alarms, but
Of
back in the
course,
day,
yeah.
Viper alarms were everything.
Yeah, they
Again,
were.
I was the first and only Viper dealer in Jersey for about a year. And
Wow.
I had the hold on Viper alarms. I used to buy 30 alarms at a time, and my dealer, he loved me. He was like, oh, you want 30? It's like, yeah. And I would buy 30 alarms at a time. I had me and another guy installing Viper alarms all the time. So it was a kind of very like hustler type of environment. And I guess I was 21 at the time. I already moved from there to working installing car phones. I graduated to, cellular phones. And my dad passed away when I was 21 years old. And, it was one of those situations where it came really quick. He got cancer, and, we had to figure out what we were going to do. So, because of the property values, the taxes, and all of that, my dad always told us he wanted to move to Florida. He's like, I want to move to Florida when I retire, and we're going to go and blah, blah, blah. And we ended up moving to Florida. But yeah, that was a tough time where, I had to become the man of the house in a way.
How old were you at that time?
I was 21.
Okay.
And I was not by any means, I was party boy, man. I was like, making my money and going out Friday nights, friends and, drinking and whatever. I was just like, this came like, it was very, very hard. And I don't know that I did that great at it, at jumping in that role. And I feel like, when we moved to Florida, we kind of had a little bit of a leg up because of, the property. My mom had bought the house. We didn't have to pay mortgage. I just paid the bills. It was, and then I had a car stereo business down in Florida. So yeah, it was, it was a tough transition, but Jersey has always been kind of like near and dear to me in my heart from a hustle perspective. In Florida, everybody's like was slow. And I was like, man, I'm going to run these guys over, and, it was just like, it was good. It was good to have that hustle.
You still got some hustle to you.
What's that?
You still got some hustle to you.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I attribute that to my Florida days. So when I was in Florida, a couple years after the car stereo thing, a lot of people think I BS a lot or whatever, but I think I'm BSing sometimes, because when I was in Florida, I did the car stereo thing. Then I owned a car lot. Then I had another car stereo and car lot. And then I bought the bar across the street. I owned the bar when I was 25, and it was a lot, And a lot of people are like, get out of here. My daughter doesn't even believe me. She's like, Dad, get out of here. You were 25 and you owned a bar and a car lot and this. I was like, yeah. It's kind of like the stories people tell, like, when I was, your parents tell you, when I was a kid, I used to walk 2 miles in the snow to go to school. And you guys, you don't know how easy you have it. But yeah, it was different.
Does this sound familiar? You have the world's most powerful marketing tool, HighLevel, but you're still not sure what to say. What's the right message for your customer? What should your emails sound like? What's the perfect call to action? This isn't a tools problem, it's a strategy problem, and you can't build a successful business on a shaky foundation. That's why I want to give you the tool to fix it for free. My name's Bridget Bartlett, and I want to give you a free account of my software, the Vision Blueprint. You can use it right now to create a professional, comprehensive brand guide for your business. This guide will walk you through defining your customer avatar, your brand voice, your value ladder, and your calls to action. It'll help you create a real professional business model. This is the strategic clarity you've been missing, and it's yours for free. Your free account also includes access to my private community, where you can watch me coach other high-level users live 4 days a week. You bring your own high-level account, and we'll show you what's possible. Stop guessing. Start building a real foundation. Click the link to get your free Vision Blueprint account now. What was it about Jersey that you feel like taught you so much about hustling? Because I just think it's so fascinating. Like, a lot of people think, oh, I would love to start a business, but what gave you the courage to be like, oh, I like installing car alarms. I think I'm just going to make this a business. Like, how did that transition happen?
Yeah, it happened like with the first one. My friend asked me to come help him, and then I installed it for him. He bought me a case of beer, And then his friend asked him, he's like, hey, and I was like, I didn't want to go down to there was a car stereo place that I would go there and buy the car alarm for almost retail. And then I'd make, 50 to $100. So I started calling. And back then we didn't have the internet. I started calling like all the, looking in Car Audio magazine. I called, Viper Electronics, and they're like, hey, we're looking for dealers. I called them. I would always want to get to the bottom, for some reason. And I did this so many times. I did it with car phones. I did, if somebody was buying something, if I had to go buy something from somebody, I wanted to eliminate that guy the next time I had to buy. So it was just like I would call the dealer, the factory or whatever, and be like, hey, I'm a, and I would BS a lot. I'd say, yeah, we're, we do about 16, alarms a week, and we want this. And they'd be like, oh, really? Oh, let me put you in touch with our distributor. And then the distributor would call me, and I just like BS him and be like, all right, I want a couple for a trial. I want to see and of course we'll send you like 2 or 3 alarms, and then it went from there. So I always, for some reason, like, after I did it once, it was like a method for me. I'd be like, all right, I see a different alarm company. I'm going to call Clifford and see if they give me a better deal. And then I call them, and then, it was like anything. And then it started with car stereos. I'd call a car stereo place, or I'd go to, a car stereo wholesaler that he helped me out a lot. And, he was like, yeah, I'll give you, 10% over cost. You just, bring in the volume. And I actually would go there with all my money. I'd buy a bunch of car stereos and really literally sell them out of the back of my car, and then say, you want them installed? Let me know. And that's really how it started. It was like a little by little by little. And I want to make a little bit more profit. I want to do this. So that's what I would do.
I think that's so fascinating because entrepreneurs just don't think like other people.
Right.
Most people would be like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll install it for you. And then they go to the store, and then that's just what they do,
Right.
if they ever do anyone else's. But
Right.
the fact that you even thought about
Yeah.
that, and the fact that you even thought, I'm going to eliminate the middleman, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to call. The whole process of you calling, I think, is like so amazing.
Yeah.
Just because you thought of it and then took the initiative to do it, and it kind of propelled you into this life of
Yeah.
business where you're
Yeah.
like a serial business owner. I think that's
Yeah,
incredible.
it was, and it was also fun. It was, the whole entrepreneurial thing, right? There's a thrill of the chase, right? And we all have that, right? Because in the beginning, we're like, wow, and we see the potential. Like, I'll never forget when I found HighLevel, and I'll tell a little bit more on that. But when I found them, I was like, oh my God. I had 13 customers on another product that I was just reselling, and I was getting $100 a month on. It was called Thrive. Very much, it looks exactly like HighLevel. So I thought, when I saw HighLevel, I was like, they're the same thing as Thrive. They're the same program. So I had 13 customers there. I was making $110, like $1,400 a month, just doing nothing. I just basically resold them. They built the websites, they did everything, and I just like upsold them on my services on top of it. And when I found GHL, I was like, oh my God, it's $500 a month for the top plan. I can take 1, 2, 3. I could take at least 8 of these people and move them, and they wouldn't even know I did it, because these people don't log into their system. They were just like, as long as my website's working, Ray, I'm good. And I would just be like, hey, I'm just moving you onto a different platform. You're going to get a different bill. They didn't even look at their website. You're going to get a bill from MD360, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no worries, Ray, all done. So by the time I moved them on to HighLevel, I was already profitable. By the time I was paying 500 plus I spent a little bit of money on a couple of snapshots, and, probably looking back, I probably shouldn't have, but I spent money on other things. But my monthly thing was maybe 1,000. And then I had, these 8 customers I had at $400 a month. So I was profitable from day one, in the HighLevel world. and then moving them up the ladder, to other services, but that was,
When I created when I found HighLevel, someone had created just gave me access to a sub account that they're just like, oh, just check this out. And within the first like 5 minutes, I created my own account on the SaaS plan and I was going all in.
I went straight on SaaS.
Yeah.
I went right to SaaS. I was like, you know what? I even like dabbled with going to the 297, being like 297. And I literally I forgot I think I called them and I was like, sell me on the 497 plan, because I know it's got to be better. And I just need justification. I just needed that justification, to know that I could have probably done it all with the 297 plan for a while. But they were like, oh, well, you can't resell this. And I got done. All right, 497 over. Thank you. It was like a 5-minute call. I just needed that. I knew I was going to go there. I just needed that justification. It was
For me, I needed the automated account creation and location, like the user with the permissions. That's all I needed. I was like, automated, done.
Yeah, that was me too. And it never, like, that's kind of still, and it's funny. The way I envisioned it, I was like so excited. I was like, this is going to be like, shooting fish in a barrel. We're just going to go and talk to all these people and they're going to want everything that we have, blah, blah, blah. And that's when you get into that kind of like, wow, there's a lot of people in this space. It's not as easy. And you got to really give them more value than that. And what I was doing was I was spending a lot of time with each client. I was spending and trying to get more money. And I did good with that, right? Getting more and more out of each one. But then that catches up, they want more and more and more. They're like, oh, you're charging me, $2,500 a month to do all of this stuff. And, there's a guy that just sent me an email and he could do the same thing as you can for 500. And then you got to like kind of sing for your supper a little bit. And then it becomes, a little bit more difficult. And I've had a couple customers leave me and come back from those scenarios. Mm-hmm. And I love it when they come back. Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm like, yeah, I told you.
It went from 25 to 3,000, right?
Yeah. I told you, these guys are like, there's kids in their, I call them the kids in their parents' basement, like, creating cool funnels and saying they're doing all this stuff. And then when they get there, they're like lost. They don't know how to deliver,
For
they
sure.
don't know the business side of it.
So Ray, you have you've started a community, right? And I will definitely put your link in the description of the episode for anyone who wants to join. Mm-hmm. But can you tell a little bit about what it is that you do in your community and what you provide and who would be really a great fit to join your community?
Yeah. So our community started, we were on a boot camp for one of the big company. It was, I'll say it, Extendly. And it was a good boot camp, but there was people on there that didn't even have a grasp on the basics. And when they were trying to go through the training, people would be asking questions like, what's a snapshot? And we're like, we're trying to get past that. Like, you're supposed to know this stuff. And and I would message them and be like, hey, call me after the thing, and I would help I helped this one person. I spent an hour with her and she became a snapshot expert. She understood the whole process. And then somebody else would be like, hey, I heard you helped Dawn do this or whatever. And then someone said, hey, we should do a call. I'm going to do a Zoom call. And somebody set up a Zoom call every week where it was basically, let's, all get together and talk to Ray or talk to this guy. And there was a couple other guys that knew what they were doing. So at that point, I decided it was literally after the second Zoom call, I started a community and I said, hey, let's do a community and then we'll do a weekly call. And everybody loved it. And we started off, we were pretty steady at like 15 people. And then little by little, I didn't really advertise it or bring too many people in because we we were all over the place. When we started, we were just like, all right, what do you want to talk about today? And we would end up on there 2 hours, and it would be, we'd have a great time. And everybody, it was great. And then we started inviting other people and getting a little bit more, where I would, and this is around the time, I found you and I saw how you were doing things. And I always told you, I'm copying your model. I'm not shy about that, where we would do a little bit of a training in the beginning, and then we just talk, and then it just like flowed from there, and we're up to, I think we're up to 50 people now. And we're starting to do, thank you, Marla. We're actually, starting to, get our, ads out there and stuff like that. We still got a little work that we're doing with the ads. The ads are running, but we're kind of running into a couple of things. But yeah, we're starting to get it. We added like 6 people in the last week and a half. So
Nice.
we're gonna start, like, I'm actually gonna go into my personal, because I found out there's a lot of people in my personal Facebook that are, looking into these solutions too, small businesses. And I've never wanted to mix my personal Facebook and my my vCloud, my business Facebook. I just got to clean up my personal one a little bit.
I hear a lot of people say that, and it fascinates me because if I had a personal profile and I never talked about business, I would never post.
Right.
Just because I am working and all of my friends are doing the same things, and everything that I watch has to do with business. And I honestly, I can't even have a friend who's not in business because there's nothing for us to talk about.
Right.
Yeah. I think that that's one of the most powerful things about community. And so whether you have your own community or you use your own Facebook profile for a community, I think it's just so cool to show up as a human and say, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. And just allow everyone else, it's the social filter, allow them to come in and out on their own. But the thing that remains consistent is you being yourself, sharing the value and the things that you know and do.
And you know what? I've been in Facebook. I was like under a million, right? Before Facebook got to 1 million. I literally worked in a co-location facility, and there was this other company that was a Facebook competitor. I can't even think of their name, but I thought Facebook was a really, really cool. They were called Multiply. It was called Multiply. And the coolest thing they had was that you can upload your pictures and share them with your friends and family. And I love that because I had family in Spain and, other parts of the country. And I wanted to put my pictures up. This is when I was, first started having kids and stuff. I wanted to, show all the cute kid pictures and all that. And it was a cool place to put your pictures. And that was really what it was all about. And MySpace was horrible. It was like so many like ads. I mean, they screwed themselves with that. But then Facebook came along, real quiet. And I was in there, they had 600,000 users. So I had Facebook that long. And I went through the whole thing with Mob Wars and all this stuff, that the games that they had on Facebook, and ended up with like 1,000 friends that I had no idea who they were. None, and I started, over the years I cleaned it up, but it was like I started doing business on there. I started trying to do business, and I got like slapped around a little bit. Like people were like, yeah, this isn't a place to come here and do business. This is like, that's how it went. But now it's more like that. Now it's like, people, call me and text me all the time. If I put I'll put a business thing up there once in a while, and then I'll get some calls from people. So I don't know. I'm going to try to do a little bit more of that, as far as the community is, because, I really am. And I really enjoy helping people. I really, really do. I enjoy solving problems. Like if you have a problem, if you tell me right now you got a problem, I won't stop until I fix it. I love doing that. And it's sometimes it's not a two-way street though. I'm sure you know. right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you ask somebody else for help and they're like, oh yeah, for $1,000 I can, I'm like, what? You know? But yeah, sometimes it's it's not a two-way street.
That's so true. And I think that when you have a community though, it like brings a different level to the relationship. Like like you're in my community.
Right.
You're technically a client. But you
Mhm.
also know that when we're in the community, it's not like client, agency relationship. It's really like we're all just a group of business owners and we're just trying to figure out our way. And I think it's so awesome to have that place where you can go where people understand everything that you're doing and they understand your struggles and can celebrate with you with the wins and things like that. I think that's so important. And I think that
It is.
as we get more into this AI, people get really tired of it and we really just even desire that human connection even more.
AI has changed it. Like it's almost like I equate it to like back when the internet first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Every business, when we realized every business needed a website, I would go to people. I started off when I was doing that, would go, you need a website. And they're like, I've been in business 30 years. I don't need no website. I'm word of mouth. Word of mouth is the most powerful thing. And all these old school guys would be like, word of mouth. And then 6 months later, they're like, hey, I need a website. Same guy. I'm like, what happened to word of mouth? Everybody's getting a website. You got to do it now. I go to, I'm still advertising on Yellow Pages and they want me to have a website. Yeah. Hey, they want me to, I need a website, just a quick website. I just want a cheap website, you know? And that's how things started. So, but it was started rolling like really quick. It was like everybody realized you can't be in business without a website, right? Because everybody's not going to yellowpages.com or Yellow Pages anymore. They're going to Google or they're going to Ask Jeeves back then. I don't know, whatever it was, Alta Vista. They have to have a website. But then everybody now with AI, it's like 150 times faster. Yeah. When people, every company, no matter how immature, no matter what, they know that they don't know how they need it, but they know they need something with AI. I got to get on this AI thing. So AI, I have mixed feelings about how we bring AI into the conversation. And we talked about it on your community before, where you just sell the solution. And that's very true. But you also have to say it's AI driven. So they know they have AI. They can go home and say, hey, I got AI. It's, I got a guy that's got AI for me. He's got it. We're using AI for this, So that's what, they just have to know that they have AI somehow, even
I,
though we shouldn't lead with it, right? Like Sean was saying, I told you,
Yep.
Sean said, don't stop selling AI. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with that. But you have to tell them that, hey, by the way, this got AI in it.
yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of like
okay.
high level. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, and we have all this, and it's high level,
Right. It's
and
not
we have all this, and it's AI. It's like these are really like the key words that they want to hear.
right.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that they got it. They're on it. All right. My guy's on AI. He's got it. I got AI.
You got an AI guy.
I got an AI guy. I got a guy with AI. That's a good.
I love it.
I got a guy.
Ray, you need a shirt. You need a
Yeah.
t-shirt.
I got a
Okay.
guy with AI. I'm gonna bring it to Summit next year.
I love it. I
Yeah.
don't think we've laughed so much on a podcast before,
Yeah.
actually. You got me crying, but it's not sad tears this time.
Not
It's
sad
the
tears. But I will tell you, this is a story. I kind of had it in my back pocket because I kind of leading up to this, I was a little nervous. I'm like, what am I gonna tell? But this is a story that this is kind of what amplified my hustle in a way. So when I was in Florida and I owned a bar, I ended up selling the bar and had to go back to work somewhere. I had to find a job. And in Florida at the time, if you got $35,000 a year, that was a good job. It wasn't, and I had, expenses and everything else. So I answered this ad to sell water treatment systems. Get this. This was not my thing, but they said, you'll get $5,000 if you sell 2 of these things. You'll get $5,000, whatever it was. It was a newspaper article. So I went there, and it was one of these things where they get together every day and they do like that, hoorah, hoo, 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 we're gonna sell. And I was just looking around at everybody. I was a new guy, and I was like, what's the matter with these people? They're like, yeah. And they're smacking me in the back there. We're going to crush it today. Doing all this crazy stuff. And, I was just like, all right, no problem. So what it was, they gave us this whole thing, the pitch. You go in there and you're like, man, your husband and wife, we're going to test your water and blah, blah, blah. You do the water test and like, oh, your water's terrible. Your kids your kids are bathing in this, you're drinking this, blah, blah. We got a water filter. It's 16 grand and we're going to sell it to you, and whatever. So you go through this whole sales pitch and I was just like, yeah, this is tough, man. And they're like, just go through the whole thing. And I started believing in it. I was like, okay, cool. It sounds good. So about a week into the gig, every day we would meet at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, do this rally thing, and we drive to our appointments. And the line was, when you get to the door, you knock on the door and they tell you, you go, hey, my name is Ray. I'm from Water Resources and I got a gift for you. And you just walk in the door. The whole thing was like, they said, just walk right in the door. Dust your feet off at the thing. Hey, it's Ray. I'm here for the meeting. In case they were at the door and they said, whoa. Well, we didn't say, because the appointment setter would call up and say, hey, we're going to bring your free gift over. Oh, yeah. Bring the gift over. Okay. That's all they would say. And I didn't know this until later. So I'd be like, they told us that they would literally do a physical thing. They'd be like, dust your feet off on the doormat and walk in. Be like, hey, I'm Ray. I got your free gift. Here it is. And walk in, and then you have a bag with like a water treatment testing kit and all that, right? And yeah, so I didn't, my first week.
You're killing me, Bridget.
Did you ever have anybody come test your water? You never had nobody come? Is that why you're laughing?
have, and that's why it's so funny.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they did, too.
Yeah. Well, I was taught by the best.
I'm so
I'll never
sorry.
forget this guy's name. His name was Chuck Schonenberg. He was greatest salesman I ever met. But he showed me this trick, and I would do it. Most of the people were too chicken to do it. They'd be like, hi, I have your gift. All right, take the gift. And he'd be like, oh, I got like 5 doors. And I'd be like, nah, I got in 2 doors. I did 2 demos, and I didn't sell, But anyway, about a week into it, my car broke down. My car was dead. And my girlfriend at the time was pissed off because she told me I shouldn't have that car. I had a Firebird and it was souped up. She's like, you should sell it and get like a better car. Blah, blah. That car's too expensive. So I was like, it was in the shop. So she was like, I'll drop you off there. Somebody else got to take you to your appointments. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went there and they were like, you don't have a car? I was like, no, I'm going to drive with this guy. He's going to drop me off and I'm going to walk the neighborhood. I had my gifts and everything. They're like, but we can only make you 1 appointment in that area. I go, make me 1 appointment. I'll go down the street. I was so determined. And I didn't realize, I was only in there a week, so I didn't realize what good numbers were. But one day I did that. I went to my first appointment, got turned down, and I started walking down the street saying, hey, I'm Ray. I'm doing the same thing. Trying to get in the door, and I got into like 3 doors. One guy had to wait for me till 10:30 at night. He had to wait for me because I would have to call the base, and I'd be like, "Hey, this is Ray. I'm doing a demo right now, so wait for me." And I did. I sold 3 units in one night. 3 units, and I thought that was great. I thought it was cool, and I didn't know how cool it was until the next day. When we went to the 2 o'clock meeting, and the owner of the company called and said, I want to talk to you guys about a guy. And I had no idea he was talking about me. This guy he was so determined. And then I started to, wait a minute, this sounds like me. Is he talking about me? This is the president of the company. He called in for this. He goes, and he got into 3 doors and sold 3 units in one night. And I was like, oh shit, that's me. He's like, Claude, and everybody's clapping for they had a conference call with the whole company. And I was like, it psyched me out. But something in that moment, it changed and made me believe in myself, because I could have easily been like, I don't have a car, I can't come. I'm going to go get another job. But I was so determined, and it was almost kind of like a spiteful thing, that because my girlfriend was pissed at me. She's like, no, I'm not letting you borrow my car, and because she had a job too, and she would have had to arrange a ride. So I was like, I don't need your car. I'm going to do it myself. And something about that just, it fires my determination.
Mm-hmm.
So if when I saw some of your other podcasts and you asked what was a moment, that was kind of my moment when I, unfortunately, the company was a piece of crap, and the commissions I was supposed to get a $5,000 bonus. They negotiated it down to like 1,000 or something. Like they were bad, but it still made me believe in myself. All the things that they told me about selling. They gave me books to read. I read a book called Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. It's a very spiritual book. And it makes you kind of reinforce, like, I'll persist till I succeed. I will persist until I succeed. And I still find myself saying that in bad times. Like, I will just persist till I succeed. Because I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have great days, great months or whatever. And then all of a sudden you get a punch in the gut and, the bottom falls out and you're like, what am I going to do?
Preach.
And, it's tough. You gotta be tough for this business.
What if you could be a fly on the wall 4 days a week as a 6-figure agency owner coaches other high-level users live? What if you could see the real-world strategies, the live troubleshooting, and the aha moments as they happen? No theory, no fluff, just real coaching with real business owners working on real problems. That's exactly what I want to invite you to do. My name's Bridget Bartlett, and I want to give you free access to watch my live coaching sessions inside my private community. 4 days a week, you can look over my shoulder as I help entrepreneurs just like you build and scale their businesses on HighLevel. And to make sure you can apply what you learn, I'm also giving you a free account for my Vision Blueprint software. You can use it to create a professional brand guide for your business, the same foundational document that my paying clients use. It'll help you map out your value ladder, define your brand voice, and finally get clear on your business model. This is your chance to get the strategy and watch the implementation for free. Now, click the link below to get your free Vision Blueprint account and your front row seat to live coaching. All you need is your own HighLevel account to put it all in practice. I noticed, though, and I thought this was really cool, that in that water treatment sales pitch, their lead magnet, besides you being obnoxious with your free gift, was the testing of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's showing them like how bad this
all
really
the crap
is.
That's in the bottom.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what we do now. Like if we have like prospecting reports and all this stuff, and it's kind of like, hey, business owner, let me show you all the things that it's wrong right now.
Yeah.
And then let me provide the solution.
That's a great analogy, because that's really what you're doing is you're showing them, how ugly their situation is. And honestly, the reason I started believing in it was because I would test different people's water and different areas. Some of them would be really, really bad, like real bad, like hard water. And you go into their bathtub. Like if somebody had this much crap in the bottom of the cylinder, I can literally walk let's go to your bathroom and show them all the crap that was at the bottom, like the white, stuff, and be like, this is, you're bathing in this, and I would honestly be wanting to help them out. And I can't sell anything I don't believe in, but I really believed in it. And by that time, by the 3rd or 4th appointment, I really believed in what I was doing. I believed I was making these people live a healthier life And if they didn't buy, my attitude was I did them wrong. I did something wrong to make them not believe. And that was kind of one of my closes. I would be like, I really apologize. I could not, help you out and make you. No. It's okay. But if there's anything, and then I have a follow up. I forgot what I did, and sometimes I reel people back to the table, be like, all right, let's just do it. Help your family. Do this for your daughter. So she doesn't have to use up that much shampoo. That was a good one, because if you have hard water, you got to use like 3 times as much soap. I don't know if you guys know that, but if you get a water softener.
Yeah, it's very similar to like the Kirby vacuum cleaner sales.
Oh, yeah, Kirby.
That's the same thing they do. They show up to your house and they vacuum your bed, and they're like, look at all the nastiness.
Do they do that anymore, though? I don't know if they do that anymore.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well,
Ray, thank you so much.
Around? I don't know.
Yeah.
I know they might be, for sure.
I want to ask Marla, how did you get into this racket, this GHL? I know you were early comer, and I haven't heard anybody ask it. I want to ask a question if I'm allowed.
So I did do an episode about it, where Bridget had interviewed me. So, but so basically, it was in 2019. I was already. I'll leave it brief, and if you want to know more, you can do the episode.
I did see the episode. My question was more towards how did you specifically get to GHL?
Yep. So I had a colleague that told me, hey, have you seen this HighLevel thing? Have you heard of HighLevel? And I was like, no, and it was really new, and they told me, it's I really think that you could use it, because at the time I was using like ActiveCampaign and Zapier, and
I was ActiveCampaign too.
And so I was doing this every time a client came. And I mean, there was no snapshot or the ability to create that process easily. Right. And so you were recreating everything for every client. And so when I heard about HighLevel, I thought, this is awesome. But number one, I already have clients. And, if I get a client, I've got to be able to deploy it quickly. And then also, I don't want to take it for a test drive and find out, that it's not what I think it is. So I ended up having somebody do a build for me. Right. And I had them build it exactly like I needed it for what I was already doing. And it, so that way I could deploy both of them kind of at the same time, and then be able to compare that build to the build that I was doing in the other platforms. And I never looked back. The moment
I was big time into ActiveCampaign, and I thought ActiveCampaign was the best thing since sliced bread back then for email only, right? And that's why, I guess, you coming from ActiveCampaign, and I guess that's kind of why I asked the question, was because when you saw like the wider, depth that HighLevel had in terms of their workflow engine, right? Because ActiveCampaign, let's face it, it was for one thing only. It was for email, right? It was email type, and then seeing what HighLevel could do. That's why that was my wow, holy mackerel. HighLevel does this, but on this, a higher level, I guess. It was like you could do SMS and all of that. So it was like a big giant eye opener for me. And I literally had people on ActiveCampaign. I had people on this system, one website. And then ActiveCampaign, the ones that was an upsell, was you want to do email marketing and all that. But then HighLevel, really upped the game big time. It was killer.
I was way before workflows.
Yeah.
We had campaigns and triggers.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. When I came in, there were triggers were just being faded out.
Yeah.
They were still there, but it was workflows, and I saw the workflows, and I was like, wow. This is insane.
The workflow builder changed the game for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that I knew. They're like, don't worry about it. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember we used to have to, take on clients and then get like 55 logins and tell them to create different accounts and
Mm.
Yeah.
all of that nonsense. It's like
Oh my God.
those were, now people kind of stress. They're like, oh, but if they need their own high level account, I actually have to get them to create the account. And it's like, this is one,
Yeah.
like, you're
Yeah.
so spoiled.
Yeah. No,
This is one
there's a
account.
lot of things. And
Yeah.
that's why there's so much, there's so much, like I said, my shift is going to be more into helping, people like, like agency owners, because I have that experience. I've dealt with all of that, and I find that, that my value is higher in that area.
Hmm.
Still going to keep my one foot here and one, but I really want to shift into more helping people in that, building the community and making, being that guy that learns things. Like you taught us some really cool stuff today. I already shared it with someone, but it's all, things that you learn. Sometimes there's a shiny ball. I don't know if I said it today, but it's really good to take that shiny object, bring it in front of your people and get their opinion about how it can be used, because you might only be thinking one way, right? But they might be saying, wow, this could be really helpful in doing this. And then all of a sudden something opens up and you're like, the floodgate opens, you know?
Yeah,
And
that's really true. It's a
you
great
have to know the
point.
use cases. I need to know
Yeah.
the use case. Like
Yeah,
I
because
need,
tools are just tools. If you
yeah,
don't have the strategy behind it, it's not a solution.
yeah. Like when HighLevel releases a new feature, I need to know, like, okay, everybody's really excited about this, but why? How
Mhm.
is this, how is this going to help me? There was something that came out yesterday and I'm like, wow, Sean did a video on it. He's like really excited about it. I'm like, I really got to know how this can help me,
Mhm.
because right now I don't have a use case for it,
Mhm.
but I'm sure there
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
So
and those are all great things to talk about in a
Mhm.
community with other
that,
people who are just really interested.
Mhm.
It's kind of like you just learn together.
and that's what the great thing about having a community and
Mhm.
belonging to a community
Yeah.
is about. Like I learn, so many things from your community. Um, I mean, you're original. You're like, you're consistent. I always complimented you on your consistency, and that's what I'm striving to be, because I tend to be like, oh, but you're there like 3 minutes early, and that's the most important thing. And I'm trying to discipline myself on doing that.
Well, and
And
it's
Marla's
like
going
you
to be
said,
joining soon too, I heard.
she will. And it's like you said, though, Ray, a few weeks ago, we were talking about that. And you said that the fact that I show up
Yeah,
early,
yeah,
it makes you feel valued, like your time,
yeah,
like I respect you. And I think that
yeah,
that's so important because it's really true. If you're hosting a community and people are taking their time out of their day, setting aside this time to join you in your community, you should value that.
yeah.
That's our time is our most valuable asset. We can't ever get it back. So I do think that it's really important. So
Well,
thank
I've
you for
I've left
acknowledging.
communities that when I joined, there was a community I was used to join 3 times a week. Um, and every single time it was like you wait in 5 minutes. I didn't know if I'm on the wrong Zoom link
Mhm.
or what. I'm like signing up. As soon as I click, I'm usually a minute late or right on time or whatever. And as soon as I go, you're already talking. I'm like, whoa, what did I miss? You know. But no, these other communities you're like even 2 or 3 minutes late. That's frustrating. When
Mhm.
you're sitting out there and you make your time, you're like, oh, I gotta run. I gotta get to this call. And you go there and they don't get there. That's a big thing. And that's what I got to get better at that. I'm a
Mhm.
minute late sometimes or right on time, but I gotta that's one of the things that I want to do to make my community successful.
For me, I feel like right on time is 5 minutes early.
5 minutes early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're old school.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, oh, I gotta get to,
Yeah.
I gotta get off the back to backs and Sometimes
Well,
I'm
I had a mom who was compulsively late. And so that, how your parents are one way and you're like, I'm never going to be
gonna
late.
be like that. Yeah. Well, that's
Well,
awesome.
Ray, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure, as always, to
Yeah.
talk to you. And for anyone who is watching this episode, I'm going to put Ray's link in the description so you can join his community. He has tons of experience and value, as you can see. And I am so sorry. I nearly lost it cracking up during this episode. You were so, so funny.
Thank
But
you.
thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Leverage and Lead podcast. Bye.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join the Leverage and Lead private community for live coaching 4 days a week at leverageandlead.com. We'll see you inside.